Okay, so welcome to how to shoot 95% or more from the free throw line. And this should be the third video that you're watching in your series. And after this video is when we're actually going to get into the 16-week program. But these three videos set you up for success with that program. So make sure you watch this full video before you attempt the program, because I think this free throw formula you'll find is a lot more effective than the one you're currently doing, okay? And it all kind of started, as you know, I've personally shot over 95% throughout my career since the discovery of one thing, and it was this book, okay? It's called Free Throw, 7 Steps to Success at the Free Throw Line by Dr. Tom Ambry. And you can see how old this book is. I mean, I must have read it when I was, in grade 6, maybe. But anyway, since discovering that book, I have never shot less than 95% from the free throw line ever. And I'm talking, like, as a grade 7, I shot more than 95% from the line, and it was because of this book. And obviously the principles that he talks about in this book. So over the years, I've kind of tweaked different things, and I have kind of found out what works, what doesn't, and most of it is based on the principles in this book, to be honest with you, but a lot of it is just little things that I added in and tweaked, and I found that it really, really worked well. So the byproduct was something that, it was a free throw formula that any player could use, and it would pretty much put their free throws on autopilot. And that's the goal, is to have them on autopilot. It's an automatic routine that puts your brain in a mindset that all it thinks is swish every single time you're shooting a free throw, and that's the thought that you should have, okay? So it's automatic, it's the same every single time, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So within this video, I have a few demonstration videos as well as a presentation that will break down each piece of this formula that has allowed me to shoot over 95% from the line, and I'll give it to you. So I hope that you put it to good use. Take a look at the video and we'll get right into the presentation. Okay, so let's talk about how to shoot 95% or more from the free throw line. So there's a couple key principles that I want to talk about within this free throw formula that are going to make it very, very, very successful for you. The first one obviously is kind of the obvious formula, or kind of the obvious principle, and it's to make your free throws the exact same every single time. And most players know this, okay? Most players know that you have to have a free throw routine. You have to, have different steps that you go through every single time you step up to the free throw line. But most players don't do everything the same every single time, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but there's a few things that you're not doing the same every time without even knowing it. So we'll get into those and how you can correct them. Now, second of all, we're after results, and this is a big principle that I got from Tom Ambry's book, that book that I just showed you, Free Throw, and that's don't get fancy, okay? Don't spin the ball, don't wrap it around your waist, don't do any of that stuff, because it throws off the ball position, okay? And ball position is something that we're going to talk about a lot. It has to be the same, and there's actually a position where your hands can go on the ball that will that allows for the highest shooting accuracy, okay? So you don't want to do anything that will throw off the ball position. So don't spin it, don't wrap it, don't do anything that's going to throw off the ball position. Just keep it really, really simple, and we'll show you the exact formula to use to shoot 95% from the free throw line. So we're going to get into the routine, and before we break it down step by step, let's just watch a quick video. It's just me demonstrating the routine in action, and look closely at what goes on, and then after that, see if you can identify kind of the factors and the different steps, and then after that, we'll get into exactly what you need to do and what makes it so effective. Okay, so take a look at the video. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Now, the routine, step by step, there's 7 steps that you saw in that video, and we're just going to go through them one by one, okay? So, number 1 is to set your feet, obviously. Number 2 is to look at the rim and take a deep breath, and this will kind of calm you down. Number 3 is to look down and set the ball position. This is the ball position that you will carry out throughout the rest of the shot. Now, number 4 is you take 3 dribbles with the inflation hole side up, looking down at the ball. Number 5, you bend your knees. Obviously, you pause at the correct depth, and you look straight ahead. So you're starting to look up, and now finally you carry out the shot. You look up, you come up from that squat position, you put the ball in the shooting pocket and follow through, okay? So let's get into each of these step by step and exactly what you have to do. So first of all, the first step is your feet, and we went through this a little bit in the mechanics video earlier in our video package, but let's just go over it one more time. So the feet, as you can see in the picture, are all 10 toes are pointing at the rim. This is very important. You can't have what I call Kobe Bryant syndrome and point your feet diagonally to the left of the rim. You want them all pointing at the rim, and the reason this is because every piece of your body that's up in the chain from your feet will follow the one lower. So your knees are going to follow your feet, and your hips are also going to follow your feet and knees, and then your shoulders are going to follow your hips, knees, and feet, and so on. So you want all your entire body pointed at the rim for maximum accuracy, and this is what's going to point the ball at the rim and make it go in. So obviously your feet are square, all 10 toes are pointing to the rim, and they're roughly shoulder width apart. You can kind of judge that and how you feel, but the important part is that your all 10 toes are pointing at the rim, and that one of your feet is slightly in front. You can see that second picture. My right foot is slightly in front, and the reason for this is because actually it's called the power foot principle. So you're creating a power foot that kind of stabilizes your shooting elbow. And it does this because your shooting elbow is going to obviously be out in front of your body as you're shooting. So because of this, we want to put one foot slightly out in front to give it that extra stability and power, and that'll help us be a lot more effective from the free throw line. But it's only a little bit in front, okay? You don't want to put it so far in front that your entire body's pointing on an angle. You don't want one foot like a foot in front. You just want it an inch, maybe an inch and a half in front of the other foot. So number 2 is to obviously look at the rim. So you've stepped up to the line, your feet are set. Now you're looking at the rim, and you take a deep breath and visualize the ball going in, okay? This is very important. You want to see the ball going in, nothing but net every single time you look, every single time you step up to the line before you begin the routine. So we haven't quite begun our typical routine yet. We're looking at the rim, we take a deep breath, and this will calm all our nerves, any nerves that we might have. And this will be our first look at the hoop. We will not look at it again until we're finished the routine and into the act of shooting. This is very important. Some players look at the rim the entire time they're doing their free throw routine. This is a huge mistake, okay? So make sure you're only looking at the rim during this first little piece of the routine, and then at the end as well when you're shooting, obviously. So second step is to look at the rim and take a deep breath. Now, third, we're going to set our hand position. So at this point, we've looked at the rim, our feet are squared up. So we look at the rim, and then we look down at the ball, and we put it in the exact position that you see in the top picture there, the first picture. So that's with the inflation hole side up. And this is the most effective, the most efficient position for your hands to be in for maximum shooting accuracy. Okay, so we're putting the inflation hole side up, and our fingers on the seams. So this is going to be the perfect position, and it'll also make sure that you're shooting the exact same every single time. Most shooters actually their ball position is off. Whether they think their routine's the same every time, the ball position is going to be different every time for them. So the way we kind of fix that is to have the inflation hole up every single time we shoot. And I actually got this trick from that book Free Throw by Dr. Tom Avery, so I can thank him for that. But anyway, so the inflation hole is up, and you position your hands in a shooter's tee. And we talked about this, and you probably already know what it means. The two thumbs just have to form a T with one at the side of the ball and one underneath the ball. Okay, so we got the inflation hole up, we formed a shooter's T, and now we want the ball only positioned on our finger pads. Okay, and you can see that on the picture below. And the finger pads allow us to not touch the ball with our palm, and it allows for maximum control of the ball and the best feel on the ball, really. Okay, so that's the position that we want our hands in, and we're looking into the inflation hole. We don't look up at the rim during this time. We're looking into the inflation hole, and I want you to picture that the inflation hole is like a black hole. Okay, it's like a black hole that kind of sucks in all your attention and all your energy, and so that there's nothing but you, the ball, the court, and the net. Okay, so that way, if you're under pressure, you forget all about that. All your attention is sucked into this ball, and all you're trying to do is make it go in, nothing but net. Now, number 4, obviously, as you saw in the video, we're going to take 3 dribbles. And the key is we're going to keep the inflation hole on top during every single dribble. And there's no spin on any of the dribbles. So we look into the inflation hole with each dribble, again, sucking in all our attention and all our energy. And we keep the inflation hole on top. So there's no spin. Most players, typically when you dribble, you put spin on it. But during our free throws, we're not going to do that. And there's actually a video that I've created that will show from the top down exactly what it looks like. Okay, so take a look at that video. Okay, so hopefully you saw that video and you kind of understand the position of the ball. Now it's time for us to get down in the shooting position, bend our knees, okay? So the inflational is up and hands are in position at this point. You squat down into position, then pause for a moment at the correct angle. So you want to find the angle. I can't tell you the angle. You can look at my picture down there. That's the angle that I use, but you have to find the angle that works best for you, and it'll only take maybe 50 free throws or so for you to really find that perfect angle and get in a groove. And you want to memorize that angle, memorize what it feels like, and then make sure that you're squatting down to that correct angle every single time. So this is how we get the exact same depth on our, on our squat, our shooting squat, every single time we shoot. And again, it all comes back to having the exact same mechanics every single time. So we squat down in position and we just pause for just a second. We're not making our quads tired or anything like that. We just pause for a split second, and we're not yet looking at the basket, but at this point, at the bottom of the squat, we start taking our eyes off the ball and start looking straight ahead. So our eyes are just drifting up towards the basket at this point. So it's a really smooth process. It's not mechanical. We're just looking at the ball, and then our eyes are drifting up towards the basket, but they haven't seen the basket yet. So at this point, number 6, we now look up. We're rising out of the bottom of the squat, and we finally are looking at the rim. And the time that we look at the rim is only for maybe half a second, because at this point we're in the middle of our full shot. We're rising up. We put the ball in the shooting pocket, make sure it travels through the shooting pocket, obviously, like correct mechanics like we talked about in that video. But as we rise up, we put the ball in the shooting pocket, and then obviously our hands are still in position, I forgot to mention. So the inflation hole, the seams, everything's still in place, and we're just rising out of the squat. We finally have looked at the rim. Now, finally, we're going to follow through, and there's not much I can say right now. Obviously, you flick your wrist. Everyone's been shown how to follow through correctly, so I'm not going to rehash, old information, but
at the same time, flick your wrist. You've probably heard that saying, hand in the cookie jar. So pretend you're reaching for the last cookie up on the shelf and you dip your hand into the cookie jar. Pretend like that, or whatever you need to do to flick your wrist, put spin on the ball. You know all those keys. And also, keep your neck as straight as possible. You can see that my head's kind of it's kind of tilted, and that's not correct. Okay, that's my biggest problem that um, I need to work on, but at the same time, try to keep your neck as straight as possible and your head just pointed straight forward, okay? So the last step is obviously the follow through, and that is exactly step by step what you need to do to shoot 95% from the free throw line. Okay, so just to reiterate the entire 7-step routine, first of all, we step to the line, we get the ball passed to us from the ref. We set our feet with those 10 toes pointing at the basket. They're not diagonal, our feet are just pointing straight at the basket, and with one foot just slightly in front. So at this point, we look at the rim and take a deep breath, and we're just calming our nerves, getting everything focused on the free throw at hand. And this is the last time we'll look at a rim. So we look down and look at the ball and set the ball position with the inflation hole side up and our fingers on the laces. Now we take 3 dribbles with the inflation hole still up. We're looking down at the ball, and the inflation hole is sucking in all our attention and all our effort, and everything we have is going into this free throw. So it's just us in an empty gym shooting a free throw like we have thousands of times. Okay, so there's no pressure, no fans, no nothing, no coach. We just are in the gym shooting a basic free throw. So the inflation hole is up. We're looking down at the ball. Again, we're bending our knees. We squat down in position and pause for just a split second. We're not getting tired or anything. We're just pausing for a split second at the correct depth. And now allow your eyes to kind of drift up towards the basket. So as you rise up out of that squat position, start looking up and finally look at the basket as you're putting the ball up in the shooting pocket before you follow through.
Now, I just want to talk about one last key in our free throw formula that can literally make or break your success. It can be the difference between shooting 85% and 95% from the line, and that's your mentality. And there's one trick that you can use to completely just put yourself in the perfect mental mindset every single time you go to the free throw line. And a lot of players, if you've ever studied psychology, there's a principle called association. You've probably experienced this as if you're driving your car and you turn on the radio and you hear a song that brings back a memory, you kind of get into that feel that back when you were in that memory, you had a certain feeling, and that song kind of brings about that feeling again. That's called association. And pretty much everyone's gone through that, but you can actually trigger certain mental associations within your mind with words. So what you want to do with this is actually come up with a trigger word, and this is the word that you're going to say to yourself right before you shoot every single time you shoot the free throw, and you're going to use that word to trigger the association of the ball going in the basket. Because obviously if you spend time in the gym, as you will during your 16-week program, you are going to shoot hundreds and hundreds of free throws. And if you shoot hundreds and hundreds of free throws saying that word every single time, you're going to associate that word with making the free throw. So you can put yourself in the exact state of mind that you're in when you make free throws by triggering that word in your brain. So come up with that word. There's lots of different words you can use. Come up with that word, have it mean something to you, just a single, simple word that you can say to yourself right before you shoot at the free throw line to make your mindset, as well as your mechanics, to make your mindset the same every single time. So that takes it from the level of having a routine that you do every time. Then we add the ball position, so everything's the same every time physically. Now we want everything the same every time mentally. So this can literally make or break your shooting, your free throw shooting percentage. So come up with a trigger word that you can think of and use every time you shoot from the free throw line, and that will dramatically improve your free throw shooting. to shoot 95% from the free throw line. And I hope you got a lot out of that video, and it kind of was a little bit thought-provoking. Even if you choose not to take the entire routine, which I suggest that you do take the entire routine and use it in your game, maybe it'll help you make a couple little tweaks to your routine, which will actually accelerate your free throw percentage. So that's my goal with this video, is to help you shoot 95% from the free throw line, like I have, like other players have, and it is possible as long as you follow certain foundational principles. Now, a question I get asked a lot is, how many free throws should I shoot per day? When should I actually practice my free throw shooting? And all of that is answered in your 16-week program. Every single day is strategically mapped out so that you're shooting free throws at the right times, under the right stresses, so you know, when you're tired, things like that, and also when you're not tired, so that you can actually hone your form and your technique and everything. So everything is very strategic in that program. Follow that to the letter, and in fact, the next step that you want to take in this video series is to watch the lost tapes, and that video will cover every single drill in the entire program. And as you're watching that, follow along in your gym swipe file and look at every day what you're going to do in the gym, and that swipe file will map out day by day exactly what you do in the gym. Okay, so watch the lost tapes, take your gym swipe file with you, and you know, print that out and follow along as you're watching it. And that way we can kind of have the 16-week program sink in, you know, fully understand it, and obviously it will answer the question of, when do I shoot my free throws? So I hope you enjoy that. That's the next step in the video, and I will see you over at the lost tapes.